Hello and welcome back to the Macca's Talk Hockey podcast, a podcast where me and my brother Charlie talk about English ice hockey, specifically the NIHL, and the band is back together again. The three amigos, we are together for the first time, I think, 4 weeks since that final pod of the season we did. Yeah, it's been a while, but I know last week, Charlie, we said I don't know if there'll be as much news. Well, I've literally got over a page worth of signings and news from our league. So we've got plenty to talk about. Before I ask how you guys are doing, we did have an interview with Tom Norton. So that will be in this episode after we've talked about all the signings. So if you do want to skip to that, that's absolutely fine. But I would suggest listening to all the news because there's some big signings. Dan, how are you doing, first of all?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. All good. Glad to be back.
Nice
Been
on
away
him.
for a bit. I don't know what Charlie was on about a cruise in Greece. So I was actually in Norway and Denmark. Pretty much the same thing.
Oh dear, Charlie getting things wrong again. Charlie, you got your cup of coffee there?
I am shattered. I went to a festival last weekend, a Christian festival. I got back. I had one day off work, but I spent that wandering around Bath. And now at Friday, I generally feel like so tired. So I got double espresso with the pod.
Ready for the pod. And literally in 2 minutes' time, there are going to be three signing announcements, and we're going to have live reactions to them from MK Lightning, Peterborough Phantoms, and the Solway Sharks. But before we get into it, actually, it's literally in a minute, but I thought we'd just get into the main news, and that is a name change from the Bees IHC, the Ice Hockey Club, to the Berkshire Bees or the Berkshire Bees. And they've got a really nice logo. Dan, what do you make of the logo? What do you make of the name change?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good to have an identity for your team. Obviously, it's good for the fans to be chanting your name, and it gives that sort of family feel to the bees again. It's not like before they just seemed to be like a team that was just sort of just in the same rink as Slough, but now they've actually got their name
Yeah.
in the rink. Obviously, it's just hopefully they get more fans through the door because of it, because they've sort of branched out their obviously their name and stuff,
They're
and you
local.
never know what could
Yeah.
happen.
Well, it's Berkshire, isn't it? And I think it's more personal to the fans now, as you said. They're not just the Bees; they've actually got a location name as well. And I know we're all going to know them as the Bracknell Bees. But Charlie, I can see you on your phone. I haven't had note yet for them.
Is
But
that all my days?
right,
Jan
Charlie. Should we
Lackinen.
start with them first?
Jan Lackinen.
Right,
All my days.
right.
That's unbelievable.
We will
I
start with the
saw
Peterborough
someone predicted that
Phantoms,
one, to be fair.
and they have signed Lackinen,
Oh
Yanni
my days.
Lackinen. He is
He's got
Woohoo!
some solid
42.
numbers.
He is
Me.
42 years old.
Woohoo!
But he is signed. He's a Finnish player for the Peterborough Phantoms, and he's played for the Coventry Blaze before.
And Fife.
And Fife, yeah. MK Lightning.
Is
Dylan
Dylan
Lawrence,
Owen.
another import. Oh wow, it's just imports galore today. So Dylan Lawrence has re-signed for MK, so that's two of their imports now, Wallace and Dylan Lawrence. And Charlie, has Solway put theirs out? Let
No.
me just check. Solway Sharks, and then we'll talk about them in a sec. But we'll go back to the bees. Um, okay, it's they've got an actual video.
Oh,
Oh,
Kieran
Kieran Hare,
Hare.
the youngster. Okay, so that's a good signing as well. So those are the three signings which we'll talk about in a
Oh, that
sec. But
Phantoms one is flipping
Yeah, he's.
that is
I looked at his numbers before we even came on here because I saw someone predicted it, and I was
yeah.
like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the
oh,
bees,
he's gonna
Charlie.
suit Peterborough
Charlie,
so
we'll,
much.
we'll go on to it in a second, but let's go back to the bees because I think that is very big news. Do you think that's going to help? Well, I think it is going to help the bees next season. Maybe get a bit more of a fan base and a name going for themselves.
Yeah, it's a move they needed to make. They're no longer in Bracknell. They're probably not going to go back to Bracknell in the nicest possible way. And so you've got to establish yourself in a new place. You can't live in the old. And hopefully it will just bring a couple more fans through the door. I would have preferred Marcel Ballas's bees, but we'll go with Berkshire. We'll go with Berkshire.
Oh, we can't forget Gabadge as well. But yeah, Dan, the other big news, and I wanted to talk or ask you about it. Kitty, are you gonna come in, are you? You're gonna come in and annoy us. But Dan, I wanted to ask you about Tate. He's obviously come into the club as the assistant coach, and I assume he's going to be the coach and doing stuff on the bench while Gabbadge can focus a bit on him playing as well. How good of a coach is he? Obviously, you've seen him at Basingstoke. What kind of things is he going to bring to the Bees?
Well, he's obviously quite new to the coaching role. Obviously, he was a player coach for a bit, and then he obviously had a few seasons on the bench.
Yeah,
He's still got a lot to obviously learn, and obviously a lot to work on, which I'm sure he will be.
yeah,
Um, but it's just his experience in the elite league. Obviously, he made a career in Coventry. He's
yeah,
played under so many different coaches, and he's obviously going to bring that to the Bees. The players that are going to be there, obviously, he's had history with them. He knows how they play. He knows their style. He knows what works.
yeah,
One thing that Tate is really good at is he works well with what he's got. Obviously, in Basingstoke, we had a sort of a rough year with roster and roster size, but he just makes the most of what he has, and I hope he does get a bit more support in Bees
yeah,
than he did in Basingstoke, because obviously I do like him a lot, and
yeah,
I really want him to do well. Um, but I think, obviously, I like a lot of people have said, I think it's what Goodbye needed. He needed a guy to sort of assist him, because he is obviously an unreal player. And
yeah,
this means he's going to be able to focus a bit more on the playing side and let Tate do the sort of coaching side. So I think it's going to be a good little partnership there.
yeah.
As Bison fans would also know, is now he's back. No bottles, no towels, or whiteboards are safe in this league anymore, because I'm sure they'll be flying on the ice one time or another.
He is passionate, and he was playing. He was a player coach, wasn't he? At what, 45 years old? He loves the game. So I bet he's absolutely buzzing, and we'll try and get him on the podcast if we can. But I bet he's absolutely buzzing to be coming back into hockey. Charlie, you're making some crazy faces there, if people can see on the YouTube.
It's
But
strong coffee. I'm not gonna lie to you.
before we get on to all the signings, let's go to that big one then. The Peterborough Phantoms have signed Yanni Lackinen.
What a
He is
flipping
42
signing!
years old. I'm looking at his elite prospects. Now, last season he played in Finland and he played in Hungary, where he got decent points. But most notably is when he played in the Elite League. Now, 1920 season, 49 points in 43 games, over a point per game. And he would have been, what, 37, I think, then? 38? So that's pretty crazy. And then he did the Elite Series during COVID, and then he did another full season with the Blaze, a point per game at 39, no, 40 years old. That is mental. And then at the Five Flyers the next season, he got 34 points in 53. Charlie, that is a very, very strong
It,
signing, and it's a European again.
assuming Padalek doesn't come back, which I don't know. I have a feeling he won't, because I do believe they're going to sign Vlad. I still back it. Yanni Lackinen is honestly the perfect Padalek replacement you could ask for. I know it sounds silly, but one of the things
He's older than him as well.
yeah, but he's slightly aged better in terms
Yeah.
of playing. He does seem like an assist merchant. Like, say it how it is. He got it last season. He got 26 assists and 6 goals. In his two teams combined. But what I really love about this signing for Peterborough is they're keeping some experience in their team, and they are a team which likes to have that experience in their players. They've got a lot of youth in. But not, I don't know if all of them are re-signed, but Austin Mitchell King, Jarvis Hunt, Jasper Foster. There's other players, Blorky
Naston.
Naston. There's so much youth in that team, especially in the forward lines, that it'd be important to get some more experienced players. This guy's also played, from what I can see, with Luke Ferrara as well. He's already played with him, probably on the same line, to be honest, because an assister and a shooter.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that,
I
actually.
actually think that this is one of the best signings I could have seen Peterborough making. I
Yeah.
really do. I think it's a phenomenal signing. He's got a track record as well. I know this is a little thing, but he plays every game of the season, even though he's like 42. He's not someone, from what you can see, who picks up injuries.
Yeah.
He's someone who plays every game. So for me, and he's a short, smaller winger. They've got quite a big squad as it is. For me, this was like the perfect signing for Peterborough.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with this signing. He'll get them, in my opinion, from what I can see, 60, 70 points. He'll have a good two-way game. He'll buy into Slava's system. And you'll hear on the interview of Tom Norton, Peterborough ain't here to mess about. They do want to win again.
Yeah, a bit of a spoiler alert. He said that they're going to be going for the league next season, and that is the aim of a lot of teams. And a signing like that is a statement signing. Dan, 42 years old, but he's still racking up the points. And I said to Charlie yesterday, they need to get, I think, one more experienced player to replace Weldon, because of all these youth players. That's as experienced as you can get, really, isn't it? He's played in the elite league. He's 42. He's still racking up the numbers, and he's going to be putting it on a plate and helping these younger guys mold into these Peterborough players who's going to be those big players for Peterborough in the future.
Yeah, 100%. His track record is unreal. I was looking just from memory. I saw he's obviously grown up through the Finnish leagues and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Obviously, they don't mess around in Finland. Like the
No.
players there are unreal. The players that they've sort of brought into the NHL and stuff. So he's going to bring all of that to the young talent. Um, and yeah, like Charlie said, he's just going to be a perfect Slava player. You just know it. You just know he's going to be always back defending, always going to be passing the puck up. He's going to be finding them short little passes that no one else is going to see, I reckon. And obviously, like you say as well, in the elite league, he's got really good points wherever he's been. So I don't see why it wouldn't change in Peterborough, to be honest.
Yeah.
One of the points I have to make, this guy's had one of the funnest careers I've ever seen. Just to point it out, he's played in Finland, then he went to Sweden, then he went to Kazakhstan, then he went to Russia, then he went to Belarus, then he went to France, then he went to Poland, then he went to England, then he went to Austria, then he went to Norway, then he went back to England, then to Scotland, then to Finland, then to Hungary, and then to Peterborough. Like,
Six
and
four.
the whole of Europe while playing hockey. He's having the time of his life. He's playing hockey and just vibing, man. Played in Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, France, everywhere. The guy's played everywhere. Like,
He's absolutely, and he's probably, well, I can't speak on his behalf, but he is he's getting on to the end of his career. I'm sure people have been saying that the last few years, but ended it in Peterborough, and he's probably been in all sorts of different rinks, and he's probably going to finish it there and thereabouts in
I
Peterborough.
love it. He's probably going to end up going to Germany and Spain in the next couple of years. He wants to take them all
Or
off. You know?
Dubai needs to
Yeah,
take that one off
Dubai.
as well. Yeah, getting
Mate,
the
I
Dubai
just find
tie.
that so fascinating.
But yeah,
Like a player who's played hockey has managed to play in like half of the leagues in Europe and Russia and whatever. And like he will have some stories to tell. I can guarantee you that one for free.
well, we'll try and get him on the podcast at some point. We'll give him a message, see what he's saying. We do have other signings to talk about. I know we've spent a lot of time on this. The other import, we'll quickly touch on him because we do know a lot about him, and that is Dylan Lawrence. And Dan, looking at his numbers from last season, his first season in the league, yes, it's 86 points. He didn't hit the 100-point mark. He got more goals than assists, and I think that is absolutely key for Milton Keynes next season, that they can keep a goal scorer. If I know he's been rumoured to leave or move on, but if they are going to lose Rory Herman, they've got Dylan Lawrence, who has a sniper on him, doesn't he?
Oh, 100%. He's got the hands as well.
Yeah.
He's one of them players you just hate because what is he, like 6'3" or
Yeah.
6'2",
Yeah.
and he can skate as fast as anyone who's about 5'10". Then he can shoot better than half of them as well. So it's like it's so hard to defend against him. Obviously, we know he's not very physical. Obviously, we did say that before last season started. Obviously, I spoke to one of the guys from Fife, one of the fans, and he said the same. But I think in our league,
He
he's
makes
got the
up for it.
speed and the shooting, so it sort of you cancels out obviously the board battles and stuff like that. If he can just get in the right position, get a player like Venus to pass him the puck, he'll put it away anytime.
Exactly. Charlie, actually, he only played 46 games. He missed a few last season as well. If he'd have played all 56, actually, he might have got 100 points. So maybe I'm discrediting him a bit, actually. A good signing. It is a very, very good signing, and it's a signing which you know that he's going to do a good job in this league.
Yeah, he's got a lot of areas to his game. As you would expect from the caliber of player, the career he's had, elite league boy, scored points there. It's very quick, got a good shot. He's not the most physical for me. I think there's an area which I think sometimes he lacks in, but it was a big part of them winning their cup, going back into the league. He's a centre who wins draws. Like that's unvaluable in this league. You need players who can just take the face off. He's got a good two-way game, and he's kind of just yeah. I think MK will sign another stacked import, whether that's Herman or someone else. But for a second import, I think he's up there with the best, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's very good at what he does, and I can guarantee you he's going to pick up some big points again. He's going to play some big minutes. He's going to be a nuisance, and he's very good in the slot. I think that's his best. Yeah. He's really good in the slot. He loves the 1T in the slot. I know
and he's good off the rushes.
Yeah, he's rapid, and you've got a lot of quick players in that MK team. So, as we always say, he's very good on MK's ice. I think he's a proper MK ice player. I do think he's not as strong away in the smaller rinks. I think there is a weakness there for him. I think when it comes to like coming to Swindon's rink, I think he struggles more than he would in his own rink. But he's a very good signing.
Yeah, the thing that impresses me most about him, and I just remember that semi-final, the playoff game against Milton Keynes. He can release the puck bang straight away. He doesn't dilly-dally about. And some criticism I have for some players is just release the puck. The longer you keep the puck, the goalkeeper's going to see it and track it easier. And Dylan Lawrence just snaps it away so quick. And he's had a couple penalty shots against Mar actually, or breakaways. And he's released it so quickly before Mars even realised, and it's gone in the back of the net. So I think that's probably my biggest I guess a positive for him going into next season. Quickly, another player for MK, Archie Salisbury. We mentioned him a couple times in that. I know that Green and Christie are leaving. Well, they've gone. But Archie Salisbury's a good young lad to step in, and I'm sure he's going to improve next season. Charlie, what did you want to say?
I think that's a big signing for them. I do.
Yeah.
I think they've got to give him more minutes this year. He's got to be on consistent third pair. He reminds me a bit of Jamie Smith. He's slightly different. I don't think he's quite as composed as Jamie, but he's a lot more physical, and I think MK need that in their team. I actually think one thing which is really positive for Archie is he's actually more suited, in my opinion, to the smaller rinks. And for MK, sometimes that's quite important because they've got a lot of players who know how to play on big ice. A lot of their D-men know how to do that. But I know Archie's one of them players who can scrap it out. And I think, I don't know where he lives, but considering he's played for Peterborough and MK, I can imagine he's in the area. Yeah. And I think it will be important for him to, MK fans, I can imagine, will hope almost come into that Christie role in the next couple seasons and be that long-term D-man who can just be that defensive defenseman who just does his job. So I think wrapping him up again and trying to keep him in the long term would be big for MK.
Yeah, we've got so many, so I'm going to have to move on swiftly. We'll go back to Swindon's only signing from last week.
Swindon.
I know who it is tomorrow. Swindon fans are going to be happy about that. But the one which we have signed already is Balint Pekosti, and I thought actually he had a decent start to the season. It tailed off a bit, and then near the back end of the season, I thought he was actually quite good in playoffs. And playing with Gale, I thought him and Gale actually linked up quite well. With Gale in that centre position. Dan Balint signed for next season. He's still quite young. He's someone which Aaron, I'm sure, wanted to snap up.
Yeah, he obviously did have a tough year. He sort of was on and off, was sort of up and down throughout the season. He never really got like consistent throughout the season. Obviously, it happens to players. You can have players that are really good, and then all of a sudden they just drop off. But yeah, like you say, he's still young. He's still got a lot to learn. I'm sure Aaron wouldn't have re-signed him for no reason. You know what I mean? Like he's obviously seen something in him that he's going to work with him on through the off season and sort of get back to the Balint that was a few seasons ago. You know, he was up there with the top point scorers, and he was just that nuisance on the ice. You know, he can do it, and I'm sure. Obviously, like Balint said, he wants to have a better year next year, and I think having the year that he did, I think he's going to push him on even more next season. Yeah. And with obviously, I think you had a bit of a better roster last year. He's sort of going to be fighting for those spots now, and he's going to sort of everything is going to push him on. So fingers crossed for him. He does have a better season next year, and I'm sure he will.
And he can play anywhere down the lineup. Aaron can trust him to play him with him and Malash, and then if that's not quite working to how the game's going, he can drop him down to third, and Bally will try his hardest either way. Charlie,
I do think it was a tougher year for Bally, and I think one of the reasons for that is I think it was his first season where he didn't consistently play with Nalan Malas the whole year.
Yeah.
Looking back on the year, and that's like playing with two of the best players in the league each year. You're always going to struggle a bit when you're not. Wow, you're playing with a goat of the National League, so it's going to be difficult for you to kind of keep at that pace. But I actually think Bally probably learned more this season than he's learned in any other year, and I think going into next season, I think it's a big year for him because our players are getting a year older. But for Bally, getting a year older is a year closer to his prime.
Yeah.
And I think next year, I think he will be looking. I need to get a point a game again. I want to get back on to potentially challenging for first PP. I want to get into these positions more. And we've seen with players where they can take a step of 38 points. I think he got last year. I may be wrong.
Ooh, I can hear you ruffling, Charlie.
You can take 38 points. You can go from 38 points to 50, 60 points. And I think that's what Bally's going to have to aim for this year. And I think he'll want to establish himself in the top six again.
Yeah, but then you look at our team last season and you had Gale on a third line, but it was still a really strong third line. So it's one of them. I think he could play anywhere up and down the lineup. I'm happy that he's back. Three Telford players, two re-signings and one new player. Firstly, the re-signings, another 2-year deal. It seems like Tommy Watkins is managing to crack down on these 2-year deals, and that is to Harry Ferguson. Again, I think he's a solid player in this league. He can play up and down the lineup. He's a hard-working player. He's mean. He gets into your face. And I think just like Bally as well, I think points-wise, he'll be looking to improve even further. So I think that's a good signing. And then Deacon Fielder was announced today. Again, when you're talking about hard players who just doesn't care, he is one of them. And he's developed into one of the tough guys of the league, hasn't he, Dan?
Yeah, he has. He's sort of that brick wall for them in D. Obviously, he played there for quite a while now. I'm not sure how many seasons he has, but
I think it's
Tom
his
won't.
third or fourth.
There we go, four. He's obviously Tom knows what he does. He knows how he plays, knows what he's comfortable in, what situations he can put him in. And with a D man, that's really important because obviously the defense is what wins you games. Really, like
Yeah.
the defense is so important, and you can't be putting these players into situations that they don't feel comfortable in because that could be the difference between a win and a loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's just one of them players that you can rely on. He knows how he plays, and I'm sure once again he'll be loving it in Telford.
Yeah, and he can play forward as well. He can play him if he needs him. Like he'll go out. Tommy Watkins can rely on him, and he will give 110% every shift. Charlie, before we get into the new player, because I know Dan will like to talk about him, just a quick word on Harry Ferguson.
Yeah, I wanted to mention Ferguson. He was actually said hello in Nando's to me. So shout out to Harry Ferguson. What a guy. Yeah, I like Ferguson a lot, actually. I think it's important for Telford. And these 2-year deals are going to do them massive benefits in the future. They're signing 2 years on a lot of players who are still developing, which is only going to benefit them. And for Telford, I think they've had a couple of years where they've lost some of their better players and they've maybe struggled a bit more in past. And the league's definitely getting better, and players like Ferguson are going to do that. There was the chance Ferguson could have gone to Milton Keynes. I heard rumours. Nope, 2 years Telford. And he's almost the perfect third liner, but he's almost that type of player as well, as if he gets a breakout season, he can break into your top six. So he's an interesting player, but he's very hardworking, very physical, chips in with goals, and he scored, for me, the goal of the playoffs in Coventry. That was disgusting. So Harry Ferguson, great signing, and what's your Nando's order, mate?
The final one is, and you know him quite well, it is Landsbergs to Telford, and he's had a bit of a tough one at a few teams, but I think this is quite a nice place for him to go to. He's under a very good coach who gives ice time to players. And I think this is very key for Landsbergs because it showed at Basingstoke, when you give him ice time, he will get you points, Dan.
Yeah, he will. You just have to give these players a chance. He did have a tough year last year. Obviously, he didn't really settle in at any team he was at. He did have. It was just a bit of a weird season for him. It was like you go to your first game playing for Bristol and you score, and then all of a sudden it's just like this doesn't go from there. You know, you think it's gonna you think, oh yeah, he's sort of settled in now,
And he
and
gets
then
put
it
on a
just
fourth line.
yeah, and it was just weird. But like I say, I really do like him. I really hope he has a good year. I'm sure he will. I mean, you can't really be under a better coach than Tom Watkins when you're a
Yeah.
young guy. No doubt he's going to give him the chances. He does it with every player, and I'm sure he's going to thrive in Telford. I really do. I think Tate and Watkins, I think they're about the same for giving their youngsters a chance
Yeah.
because obviously Tate had to, and Tom Watkins is just really good at it. And like you said, obviously you give him the chance and he will perform. He will put a puck in the net. You just have to give him that chance, put him on the right line with the right players,
Yeah.
and he will give it back 100%.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I wish him all the best for next season. Hopefully, he can get that ice time and show what he's all about. Charlie, I want to move on to Leeds. They've signed two big players, and it's two re-signings. We were
Yeah.
talking about him
I've had enough
yesterday.
of Leeds. I've had
But
enough of them.
yeah, we've had enough. Big game Buesa. There was people rumoring that he would be going back to Solway, that he'd be going off playing somewhere else, back to the Elite League. But no, he signed a deal with Leeds again, and that is not good for the rest of the league because he's another Brit, which is a top class Brit, which Leeds have signed.
Yeah, I was saying this to Jack yesterday. Uh, Leeds, what they've done for the past couple years is they've had four big Brits who almost play like imports, and then got two imports, and then they've got the best top six in the league. And they've signed Kieran Brown, Matt Cowler, and Buesa. And I can't imagine Matthew Hayward's going to go anywhere unless something massively shocking happens. So that's Leeds' top six done for this season. So it's going to be another good year for Leeds. They got Gospel signed up and they got their top six back. And with that, you're in for a weapon. And with Buesa, I think he's going to have a better year. I think he had a good season. I thought he really turned up in playoffs. Not so much in Coventry, but in the 6 games leading to
Oh yeah, he did.
Coventry.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be looking to say, hey, Brown, Howler, I want to join in and get 100 points. So I think he's gonna really push them to push himself to keep up with some of the players he's gonna play with, and they get a full season out of him instead of about 3/4 of a season. So it makes it a bit more funner for us guys than it trying to chase leads.
Yeah. And then
They are just crazy.
another re-signing who a few Leeds fans said we didn't credit enough, but we know how good he is, and I think it goes under the radar of the consistent performances which he gives week in, week out, and that's Lewis Baldwin, and he's re-signed again today. Obviously, Leeds legend, played with the Chiefs as well. Dan, it's another good signing, isn't it? And it just shows that these Leeds players just love playing in Leeds, and why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's another 2 year deal as well. He's
Yeah.
he's signed for the next season as well. So there's a lot of them going around this year. It's looking good for the league. But yeah, he's just a guy that you just know he's going to do his job. It's sort of I can imagine him being the guy that you don't really have to coach. You don't really have to tell him what to do. You just
Yeah.
know he's going to do it, and you know he's going to do it well. He loves hockey. He'll block a shot. He'll throw a hit. He can skate up the ice. A typical D man for Leeds, really. It seems like every D man of them of theirs can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, a really good re-signing from Leeds, and I'm sure they're going to be strong once again.
Yep, they
They
are.
just sign really good players, don't
It's
they?
it's
Like
it's
they,
about getting up
They're a
to
pretty good
Leeds.
team, to be fair.
Yeah, they do. It's about getting up to their level if anyone wants to try and beat them. We'll quickly move swiftly on. Ross Bottom, I forgot to mention him when we were talking about the Bees. The trumpet man, he has re-signed with the Bees. And Charlie, he goes under the radar again. I know Bees have the likes of Balaz, Gabaj, Antonov, which are the three which get talked about. But again, he can play across the whole lineup. And when he slotted in with Ballas and Gabaj, he was getting ridiculous points as well.
I think what's really important for a team like Bees is being a lower budget team, you have maybe 4 or 5 guys who play in your top six, and you know they're going to play in your top six. But then you need a couple, maybe what you'd call third liners, to step up and say, I want that top six spot to play with these guys. And Adam Rossbottom's a classic example of someone who maybe would have never got that opportunity if he wasn't on Bees. But he got the opportunity at Bees, and then he takes it and he bangs out the best sellies and enjoys his time there. And he really complements good players. He's one of them guys who does all the dirty rubbish stuff which you need on a line. And yeah, it's a good signer for Bees. He goes up and down the lineup. I'd like to see him get a top six role for the whole season if they don't sign any like worldies, which we don't see coming. But yeah, I really like Adam Rossbottom as a player. He's the type of player you want playing for your team because he gives it 110%. He does well when he's on the ice, and yeah, he scored a cool goal against MK. I remember that goal, and that was quite cool.
He gave a nice little selly. Let's move on to the Solway Sharks, and they re-signed Callie Robertson, and obviously came to them midway through last season. And again, he's just a very good player, isn't he, Dan? And you know that he's going to be getting points from him, and he's a main guy in their top six, isn't he? And they're going to get
Yeah,
him for a whole season, which I think is key.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Obviously, you're getting him for the whole season. He's not going to sort of have that transition period of playing for one coach and going to another coach.
Yeah.
He's going to be going working with him the whole summer, obviously the whole season as well. And they're going to be battling next year. They're going to be a team that's going to battle because last season they showed what they can do, and they're going to be following on from that season. And I think seeing what signings they make, it could be an exciting season for them because they're going to give as much effort as they would in any other game all season. The players they're going to be ready for it. You know, they're going to be suited to the league now. They've had a full season in the National League. This season now is their time to make their statement in the league, I think.
And they've got Mr. Jordan Marr as well. In goal, I think
Big
is very good
signing.
because
That'll be huge.
you'll see in the Norton interview, he talks about how you build from your goalie because the goalie's the most important. So I think that's big. And then, as just announced half an hour ago, Kieran Harris re-signed. He's been with Solway his whole career. He's only 24 years old, and he's picked up 12 points last season, which for a young lad who's playing on that third line, I think that's a nice little re-signing to have, and he's one of those grinder players for Solway. So that's a nice signing. We got to move on because it's still quite a few. We'll go on to Sheffield Steel Dogs, and there's been a couple of signings for them.
They
Obviously,
signed
as we
Uric
know,
again.
the
They announced him
season.
4 times.
Yeah, we know the Steel Dogs Steelers little partnership they've got, and Ripley has come back to Sheffield. And he played for Coventry last season, Charlie, and he got quite a few games for Coventry,
Yeah.
but it was quite obvious that he was going to come back to Sheffield, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Just to let the fans know, we had an inside joke because they announced Uric about 17 times.
Yeah, they did. I
For
saw
the
that.
Steel Dogs, and Dad messaged me yesterday when they announced the signing they made yesterday and went, I'm surprised he wasn't called Uric again. They've got a lot of him. But no, Ripley's a class signing for them. And this is the thing with Sheffield, and this is what's quite powerful about them is I can imagine Milton Keynes gave Ripley an offer as well. I can't imagine they didn't give him an offer, and clearly this Sheffield pull is coming into place. They are signing some good players, and Ripley is a great addition to the team. 2 years in the Elite League. I think he's a very solid two-way player. He may not be the guy who's going to score you 100 points, but he's one of them Brits who's going to win you titles because you don't always have to have guys who score 100 points. I see Sheffield will have them coming. Uric's one of them who will score loads of points. But Ripley's one of them guys who you'll sit in your top six. He'll do penalty killing, he'll do power playing, and he'll do top line minutes. So he can do everything. And you need them two-way Brits who can win you titles. Scott McKenzie's an example of one. Telford have had loads of them in the past who've helped win them leagues. They have them Brits who just they're very good at everything, and I think Ripley's one of them in our league. He really has got the full package when it comes to the National League.
I think Weldon is one of the biggest ones for our league. Just a Will Weldon, not massive points, but his two-way game is ridiculous.
Chris Jones is another one of them players. Like they may get around a point a game, bit more, bit less. I don't really know where Ripley's going to stand because he's been in the Elite League a while, 2 years now, so he's developed. But the one thing you can guarantee from them is a really good two-way game, a good physical game, and then the points are just a bonus when they're that good at what they do.
I think that's why Coventry quite liked him and played him because he kind of suited their third, fourth line role. So I'm interested to see how he progresses a bit more with Sheffield Steel Dogs and how many minutes he'll get with the Steelers. And then the other signing, Dan, just quickly on him, Warburton didn't quite have the season which I'm sure he would have hoped was Solway. I think Hepburn became their number one. So Warburton's come back home. I think he'll feel a lot more comfortable playing in Sheffield. And he'll be training with the Steelers as well. What's not to like about that?
Yeah, exactly. And he has obviously played a few games for the Steelers. I think he's backed up the Steelers for a few games as well in the past few seasons. So,
Yeah.
like you say, yeah, back to his roots, back to where he's comfortable. And I saw on his Instagram, obviously, all the players are loving it that he's back. So that's going to spur him on even more, I'm sure.
100%. Before we get on to the Phantoms and then on to the interview, we've got one final little duo. Zane McKenzie and Brinley Caps signed to a 3-year deal. Big up Brinley. We've had him on the podcast. But Zane McKenzie, will start with him. Charlie, it's quite a weird one because he's not really settled at many teams in the league, has he? And it didn't really work out. Well, I say it didn't really work out. He didn't get played too much at Nottingham, but he's gone back to his hometown club of Coventry. It'll be interesting to see whether he gets a full time there or whether it'll be another two-way because he's gone to quite a few teams in our league already, hasn't he?
I'll be honest, I am surprised he went to Coventry. I
Yeah.
am surprised. Surprised he got the Elite League gig again. There must be more he's got to show. Because, like I say it how it is, he's never been a massive point scorer in our league. He's not shown a huge amount when I've watched him play. So I think there's more he's showing. He's just not been able to establish his game yet, and he's still young. So yeah, training every week is going to help him. Coventry clearly want their homeboy back as well, which is always good. Signing the players homegrown, and yeah, it's difficult because I know in the nicest possible, I know he's going to go to the Elite League and he's played fourth line minutes and he's not going to get played a huge amount. Like it does happen with a lot of Brits. You saw it in Ripley. He didn't get a huge amount of minutes in the Elite League. So hopefully he can continue to develop at Coventry and do well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But the one that excites me is Brinley. And it's not actually come out that he's going to be getting a two-way. It looks like Coventry are fully investing in him. And a 3-year deal. It's clear that he's with them for the long term and the future. And Dan, I think that's a fantastic sign-in. I saw someone tweet out saying he's the best under 18s player in the UK at the moment, and I can't really disagree with that. His goal scoring, his physicality. I think he needs to bulk up a bit, but that will come with age. He's only just turned 17 years old. That's a really, really cool little sign, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's it's literally like, obviously I'm not saying it's the exact same, but it's like a mirror image of Liam Kirk's career. Like Liam Kirk made his debut for the Steelers at 16 years old. Obviously, Brinley Caps is going to be playing for the Blades, hopefully getting a lot of minutes. Well, not a lot of minutes, but a lot of ice in a
Ice
lot of
time, yeah.
games. Yeah. Obviously it's 17, and like I say, he's ripping up in GB like Liam Kirk was. So who knows? It's proved that it can work if you're
Yeah.
doing it with the right team, the right player at the right time. It can work out for you. Being so young, going into the elite league, I know there's a lot of things saying. Obviously, you're not going to get the ice time in the elite league. You should go on a two-way, but it's proved it. Look where Liam Kirk is. It's worked. If it just all
The
depends on
team.
timing in this game.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, it could obviously go a different way. But you never know until you see it, to be honest. So it's exciting times for Brinley, and I hope he does well anyway, because that'll just be a great advert for British ice hockey again.
Yeah, I think it was Brindley who's saying that he's been on little training camps like Crosby's training camp. So yeah, that is going to be really cool for him. And good luck to him. We'll be
To
following him,
comment
and
on
it,
that
it
one,
does go on.
sorry, Connor Lee, he played a full season at Manchester. He's played 39 games in the Elite League at 16 years old last year. And I think the one thing Brinley Caps has got, which is so rare in a British player, is the fact you can bag 41 goals in 27 games in the National One League. Came to the National League. He actually didn't get a huge amount of minutes at Raiders. I think he deserves more. The kid's got bags of talent. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did go on a two-way at some point. It makes sense if he wants to play higher end minutes. But if Coventry can invest in him, play him on a third line, play him on a fourth line, whatever, just give the kid minutes, he
Yeah,
will develop. He is the most, he got 11 points at under 18s level in 5 games. The kid is ready. And
yeah.
I think this will only develop him because he's going to be training like 5 days, 6 days a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, the Peterborough Phantoms. The news come out that Slagkowski was leaving the Phantoms. I was actually quite surprised at that. That shocked quite a few people, but obviously he's moving on, and he's just moved on in the best way because they've just won the playoffs. So fair play to him. He is a very, very good player. It's interesting to see if he goes back home, goes to another European country. He might have the mindset of I've completed it now. I've won that big trophy in England. I'm going to try in another country. But he has moved on, and Lackanen is not a bad replacement. It's a very different replacement, but is not a very bad one at all. Jarvis Hunt re-signed with the Phantoms. We're not going to speak too much on that because I think Tom Norton talks about Jarvis quite a bit in the interview, which is nice. And then finally, Tom Norton himself. 11 seasons. Again, I'm not going to talk about it too much because we have got an interview with him. So yeah, we're going to get over to that now. It's a really, really good interview, Charlie. He's a very good speaker, isn't he?
I think it was great chatting to Tom because I think he really speaks about the heart of Peterborough, what Peterborough's about, his passion for the club. And as he is getting older, he's had his testimonial, he's 33. I love hearing his perspective of the game, his honest opinions on the game, and I want him back on the pod already. I really enjoyed chatting to Tom.
We could have chatted. I had to nip off somewhere, but we
You
could have
already said
chatted
we're
to
gonna have
him
a
for
drink.
another.
He already said when he comes to Swindon, I want to have a pint with you boys, and like that shows how much of a lovely lad he is. And I'll make sure I grab him a pint.
We'll cut to the Norton interview now. Please do enjoy it. Hello and welcome back. We've got another special guest on the podcast. Charlie, do you want to introduce him?
Yes, we'd like to welcome on an offensive defenseman. He just had his 10-year testimonial and he's recently been crowned the playoff champion for this season. We'd like to welcome onto the podcast Tom Norton. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, guys. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to having a little bit of a chat with you.
Yeah. How did you find your testimonial, seeing some familiar faces?
Yeah, it was great fun. But like I've said to a lot of people, it's been quite a humbling and overwhelming experience, really. You know, the kindness and generosity of a lot of people has just been unbelievable, and just a real crazy experience. And like I say, having the players flying in from Latvia and Czech, and then having Corey Nielsen, David Clark, guys from MK, everybody travelling all over to come up and support me was massively appreciated. And it's a weird feeling when it's just a sport that I've played since I was 6 years old, and it's effectively my hobby that turned into a bit of a semi-professional career. But it's quite surreal, really. But no, it was great fun.
What is it about Peterborough which has made it your home for ice hockey recently, well, in the past 10 years?
I think just the club itself and the dressing room. I know you've had a few guys on before, and they talk about how close the dressing room is, and how everybody really gets along. There's no separation, there's no cliques or anything like that. It's just a real welcoming room. And Slava's kind of had a core group of guys now there together for a long time. Obviously, it's slowly dwindling now. I think there's only me and obviously Slava himself, me, Robbo, and obviously Luke Ferraro, who's now back as well. So, I guess that's our age showing a little bit as well. But it's definitely one of those. And just Slava being the coach as well is always really helpful, because you kind of you've said it, he's one of the best coaches in the league, and playing for him is obviously night in, night out, year by year, gives you a chance to win. And at the end of the day, as a player, that's what you want to do. And as a club, they look after everybody really well. So it's a good spot to play. Living in Nottingham, it's logistically worked out quite well when there's been a car full of us as well. So it just fits with life quite well as well.
Nice one, go on, Charlie.
Yeah, let's take it back to Nottingham. I believe you're a Nottingham lad. You were brought up through the Nottingham setup. How was that, and how was it making the debut for the Panthers as well after being playing since you were 6, like you said?
Yeah, obviously it came through the Nottingham junior system. The old ice rink was where I started, and it was a really good system. Actually, I kind of got lucky with the fact that the junior system at the time didn't have enough players. So whilst I was doing my skating grades, I also was able to start playing at the same time, which obviously there's so many kids trying to play now, it wouldn't happen. Yeah. So it was kind of like, I was doing my skating grades, but then learning to play the game at the same time. So I think it was really, really helpful. and we had a really young Nottingham team. There was, like you say, myself, Robert Lakovic, James Neal, Robert Farmer, to name a few. And the Sheffield junior system was quite strong at the time. And like my first game, I believe off the top of my head, I think we got beat 48-0. Yeah. It was a tough one for the goalie as well. I think it was his first game as well. James Burton, his name was, bless him. Still a friend now. And but there was a gentleman there that kind of said, like, you watch in a couple of years, they'll be winning the league title and stuff like that. And then, he was right. I think we finished then runners up because we were only 6-7 years old, so we had quite a few years at under 10s, finishing runners up and then winning league titles. And then from then there was that kind of real core group of us. And then other guys that kind of came in as well that kind of made us a really strong junior system.
Yeah. What was it like playing in the Elite League back then? I know it's probably quite a lot different now. But what was it like for yourself coming in at 19, 20 years old into that Nottingham setup?
Yeah, where'd I gone to? I'd gone to Morzine on like a training camp with the Panthers. It was like the first week was all the prospects.
Yeah.
And the second week was the team coming out, and there was a couple of spots to stay on the second week. Mike Ellis was the coach at the time. And I didn't manage to stay for the second week, but I guess I gave a good account of myself. I would have been 17 at the time.
Yeah.
And he kind of said, like, you've done really well. We want you to come and skate with us in the October half term. So I did. And then that's when I kind of got my first chance to dress in a game. And yeah, it was just crazy. Like, that's the team that I sat there in the stands watching, like, with 5, 6, 7,000 people. And, I had the opportunity there to, dress for my hometown club. And then the game went really well. So then I got a few shifts at the end, and my first shift partner was Corey Nielsen as well, who then ended up obviously being the coach, and obviously, a good friend of mine as well at the same time. He was at the testimonial as well. So yeah, it was real great experience. Like every kid's dream really to play for their hometown club. And like you say, it was a little bit different then. There was less imports in the league, but the quality of some of those imports that were in the team and the Brits that you were learning from, like I say, there was David Clark, Mark Levers, Danny Myers in the team. Jeff Woolhouse was like the backup goalie at the time, but a real established, British netminder in the league still, and could go in and do a really good job.
Yeah.
Mark Levers, sorry if I'm missing anybody out as well.
Go on, Charlie.
You made your step into the EPIHL, which was a tough league at the time. And you played for Milton Keynes, which probably seems like a long time ago now, playing for the rivals. But how was that getting your first minutes under the belt? Seems like you got 10 points that year, so you're probably playing some good minutes that year.
Yeah, for me, I'd never played anywhere else other than Nottingham. So, for me, I knew I kind of needed to move away and obviously play more minutes. And obviously, I was getting with the Panthers, which was sometimes, no minutes at all or a few shifts here and there. It was very up and down, which, was understandable because of my age and stuff and still learning. So going to Milton Keynes obviously gave me that opportunity. Nick Poole obviously called. And again, that was kind of a real shock that, a team like MK that I think 2 years before had won the league title, I think they had as well.
Yeah.
So, real established, EPL team with a real core group of players that have been there a long time. And I was going to be going into that dressing room. I think I was only one of 2 players that were new players within that team. Oh, wow. And I think it was, again, a real growing experience for myself. I didn't really know what to expect within the league. And, you come in and you want to impress and do a good job. And I think I had a good start, and then kind of that middle area of the season, I really struggled, and I was only 21 at the time. Yeah. So I think, and I always speak to the younger kids on the team now, and it's that mental side of the game, because you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to have your best game sometimes, but it's learning how to deal with the ups and downs of the game and the mental side, which is so important. And if you're making a mistake, being able to put it to the back of your mind. But I was really fortunate to have such a good group of guys there. I mean, I've played in a lot of those guys' testimonial, and then they've come and played in mine. So even though I was only there for a year, kind of, made some really good friends there. And it definitely helped me grow as a player and kind of learn that mental side of the game and the ups and downs.
And then the next season, this is where your Phantoms era kind of started. When you moved there, I've got two questions. When you moved there, one, did you think you'd be there for the next 11 years? And two, you doubled your points and got four more. So you got 24 points that season compared to the 10 at Milton Keynes. How was that first season at Peterborough?
Yeah, it was great. Again, the dressing room was just again really welcoming. They had guys like Jeff Glower and Marius Sedins there, who had obviously established EPL, international, and elite league players, along with like Joseph Sladdock, the import as well, and Tom Carlon, Joe Graham, Damien King, Will Weldon, Luke Ferrara, James Ferrara. So like you get again a really good dressing room to kind of again I would have only been 20,
22?
22 at the time.
Yeah.
So again, I was still I was still really young and still learning the game. So another really good dressing room to come into. At the time, I suppose Peterborough weren't as strong a team in the league, so the kind of the pressure to do well wasn't there as much as it was in MK as a team, if that makes sense. But obviously, we still needed to perform well and whatnot. So, and then, like I say, that mental side I kind of took away from Milton Keynes, and in Peterborough, kind of let it all hang out and just really just allowed my game just to develop and flow. And I still had I think a two-way contract with Nottingham, so I was still skating there quite a lot as well. So was really just able to develop and just enjoying. John Kinniston was the coach at the time and gave me lots of opportunities and lots of rope to develop as well.
Yeah, nice one.
I think an interesting question would be, what helped you establish yourself in the league? Because I think maybe that year was probably the year you did, but I can imagine year on year you got more minutes, you grew as a player. What helped you full on establish yourself in the league?
Well, I think what happened then the following year was I'd signed back in Peterborough, but then something happened in Nottingham. I ended up going back to the Panthers again on a full-time deal.
Season at Nottingham, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that again really helped. Kind of whilst in Peterborough, I'd had that kind of, I guess, a bit of an offensive year and stuff like that. It sort of brought me back to really focusing on like the D zone and that defensive play and making a good first pass and again, working with like the likes of Corey, Jonathan Weaver, Eric Werner, Stevie Lee, and all the other guys that they had there. Again, it just because again I was still only 20, I would have been 23, 24, so I was still relatively young and learning, and I think it really kind of allowed me to take that step back again and develop that side of my game whilst I'd had the opportunity the year before to kind of let it all hang out and be a bit offensive. It probably then allowed me to work on that side again.
Yeah. And then you've been in Peterborough ever since, and there's been three different leagues within your time at Peterborough. You had the EPIHL, I think that was 5 imports. It then went down to 2 in the NIHL, and now we're back up to 3 NIHL 1. Now we're back up to 3 in the NIHL. How do you feel about the league state at the moment and the way it's going?
Well, I mean, the EPL was a really good standard, especially by that end of the 5 imports. Like it was really good, like really good hockey, strong hockey. Again, obviously, lots of teams had those import goalies as well, which obviously has been a talking point as well. But clearly, unfortunately, it wasn't sustainable for the league, especially with what was happening with some of the teams and the money that was being thrown around. And unfortunately, what happens is those lower budget teams, to still stay relevant and to be able to compete, they've got to then stretch themselves further, which then ends up meaning they're having to then potentially fold or let loads of players go and stuff like that. And it's not sustainable as a league. And whilst it's good for teams individually if they're able to have 5 imports and they're getting 1,500 fans, 2,000 fans, and actually it's no good if there's no league for them to play in. So I think there has to be that almost collaborative approach that you're going to have your bigger budget teams and that's perfectly fine, but how can we work together to make sure that kind of everybody's able to be sustainable within the league and have their piece of the pie. And sadly, obviously, what happened then, obviously, we had to split into the NIHL 1, which was a real eye opener going to some of those places. And credit to like teams like Cardiff Fire, Invicta, Streatham, that still stayed in the league and competed and played really well. But like I remember there was one game when Victor turned up, I think with 7 players to players in Peterborough, which is is no fun for anybody. And
Including the fans as well, yeah.
Yeah, like it's not right, but unfortunately, because then again you've dropped down into the league and there's that gap in budget and players. That's what happens. And I think it was right that now we're into the format that we're in. Yeah. But again, we just need to be careful not to let it kind of slip back into that EPL time where like budgets are going crazy, silly money's being thrown around, and it just doesn't make things sustainable. And at the end of the day, you want there to be a league and a product on the ice.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, if it obviously did go like that, you're running the risk of it having to restart up all again, and all the hard work that's gone over the last 3 seasons,
four
seasons would just be wasted.
I was going to comment on that because you made you're quite an active man on Twitter, and you made some good tweets about backing Peterborough Phantoms, and I've always been someone who does. What do you think about Peterborough is so good about playing on a lower budget? Because we all know they're not on the budgets of the Milton Keynes, the Leeds Knights, the Swindon Wildcats. Them teams are on higher budgets than Peterborough. So what about Peterborough is so effective that you can win 2 trophies in 2 seasons and, say how it is, be more successful than higher budget teams?
Yeah.
I think, like you say, it's one, Slava's been able to keep that core nucleus together, develop that ethos, and we've won before as well, so breeding breeds winning. So once you learn how to win, you know how to do it. The balance of experience, and then it's just his recruiting, and picking up players that maybe look like maybe a bit of a diamond in the rough, or a junior player that just needs opportunity and ice time. That's one thing he does, Div. He gives the juniors ice time. He allows them to make mistakes. How are they ever going to develop into players if they don't play? And how are they ever going to learn from situations if they don't get put in those situations? Obviously, you've got to manage it and do it in a situation where it's not potentially going to cost the team 2 points, but at the same time, it's you've got to, if you're investing in that and you're trying to develop a player, then that's why you've got to commit to doing it and not pull them off the ice and bench them at the first sign of them struggling. You've got to nurture that. A good example is like someone like Jarvis Hunt. Like he's been with us for a heck of a long time, and he's 4th, 3rd line, stuff like that. But like this year, he had moments where he was playing between Lucas and Martins and doing really, really well. And that's just through development and trusting him. And then he penalty kills like a warrior. He'll get in front of the net. He'll take hacks and whacks. He's good on the face-off draws. Like he's really worked with Welds on those face-offs as well. And I think guys appreciate that trust, and they know that they're going to play. So to maybe go somewhere else for a little bit more money, but then potentially not get ice time, that's how it kind of weighs up in their mind, I guess.
Mm-hmm. My favourite example is obviously we had him on, Billy. You look at Billy coming in, and he's killing the penalty in overtime with arguably the best power play in the league, Leeds, and he's just blocked a shot. And I don't know if other teams would have given Billy that opportunity because he is so young. So I think that just shows the levels of Slava having those trusts in those youngsters, like you said.
100%. And like Billy deserved to be out there and be killing that penalty at that time. He's had a hell of a year. He's had to step up probably more than he would have thought he would have because of injuries that we've had, and he's done fantastic. And again, he's that prime example of, put that trust in, give him the chance to make mistakes, but develop and learn from them. It's fine to make a mistake, and it's fine to maybe make the same mistake again. But, if you're not learning from it, that's when it becomes an issue. Yeah. But like we stood on the bench at the time, and I do the D rotations with Slava, we say who's going if we have chance to chat about it.
Yeah.
And I think he'd done Robbo and Cow. And then the next shift, it was kind of like, well, it could have been me or Brad. And at the time, like I was done. Like I was cramping up, and I was like send Billy. Like wow. He'll be fine. And it would have been magical if he'd scored that goal as well.
I was gutted. I was devastated.
So gutted for him, but and thankfully, we ended up then lifting the cup, because that would have been a really tough one for him to swallow. Not that it would have been his fault, because it could have gone on anybody's stick and they could have put it wide. But you know, it's fantastic to see, like, you know, Peterborough local lad playing for his team and doing so well. And, you know, again, he's going to make big strides again next year.
Yeah, and Tom, how has one of the older, more experienced players hitting 10 years in Peterborough fandoms? How do you help these younger players develop? Because I'm sure Slava puts crucial trust in you to help make Peterborough successful.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do a lot of Slava's big on video. So there's a lot of video. We've got our main group chat, which videos go in. There's a forward chat, there's a D chat, power play, penalty kill chat, because you know we train Wednesday night and guys are coming straight from work. So guys are turning up an hour to 45 minutes before. On a Friday, training's even earlier. Sometimes guys are getting in again 30 minutes, 45 minutes before training. And then, you know, on a Friday before the weekend, sometimes there's not time to sit there and go through all the videos. So
Yeah.
a lot of stuff happens on the mobiles and communication through that, questions through videos. Slava's sending me individual videos on guys and stuff like that and asking potentially what they could have done better. And then it's just those discussion points and speaking to them about it. And then a lot of it then we try to then relate in practice. And I think Billy and Jasper spoke about it as well. Like, you know, we set up differently for different teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's another key to the success. And that's also, I think, in Slava's recruitment, that you're signing guys that, you know, have good hockey IQs as well and can adapt on the fly and change and be part of a system.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, you're going to have you got to have like those players that are going to have moments of magic and can kind of go a bit rogue and pull a goal out of nowhere or something like that. But you know, no one's bigger than the team at the end of the day. And you know, for us to be successful over those last 2 seasons, it's taken a team effort to do that, along with then those individuals shining at those special moments.
Let's look back at last season then. And it was a very up and down, tough season, injuries, players leaving. I think injuries was massive though. You had some big players getting some long injuries. How did you find it? Because I don't think you had it. Did you have an injury last season, or did you play most of the season?
No, I played all the games. I think
Yeah.
I missed one game due to a wedding that was prior booked in, and that's the thing as well. Like, you know, sometimes real life does get in the way of things like that. So that was a one game that I missed, but I played every single game. But like I said, lots of injuries. Like Scott Robson, for example, I think he broke his foot, came back first game back, then broke his wrist, and then he was playing with a broken foot in the playoffs. So, well, recovering from a broken foot, he wasn't quite all the way recovered. So, you know, and then Brad had the broken hand. Obviously, Dunks with his leg. Like Dunks was still trying to potentially try and get his boot on for the playoff finals.
You heard about this,
yeah, like crazy. But then, you know, that's the kind of dressing room and guys that we've got. So, like, if you see the person next to you doing that, you know, you're gonna pull on the shirt and you're gonna go for a wall for each other, you know, and. You know, Jasper had him. I don't know if Jasper had it. Was his knee or something like that as well? I think like what previously. Again, it's just kind of it's hockey. It happens, but it just seemed like, oh my gosh, like
everything.
We get one guy back from an injury, then a ban happens. Guy comes back from a ban, another one happens. Like we didn't have a full strength. We didn't have a full strength team. The only time we did was the first pre-season game against Romford. After that, we never had a full strength team.
And you were cooking at the start of the year, like for the first 6 weeks of the season, you had the best line in the league. That line was just obliterating every team. And it was crazy. So there was definitely a roller coaster of a season, but I think it got topped up by the fact that I think you show Coventry who the Peterborough Phantoms are.
Yeah, what was it like at playoffs then? Because I know Charlie predicted you guys. He actually predicted you guys to go through and get to the finals. But what was it like being almost the underdogs, the injured team? You had a couple bans as well. What was it like as players going into it, knowing that other teams had pretty much a full roster?
We just had to worry about ourselves at the end of the day, and you know, we had a meeting the final league week of the season where we just spoke about, you know, we are what we are right now. This is what we've got. This is the team that we've got going forward. We need to reset because we've not been playing very well. We need to find our fire, which I think you probably saw Jasper had on his t-shirts. Cheesy things like that to try and get the group going. Spoke about everybody brought their like a picture in the dressing room to put in their stall of who they play for, so who they're basically sacrificing for to play, and just trying to get that full on buy-in. And that's all we were bothered about. We focused on ourselves game by game. Don't get me wrong, myself and Slava were probably having different conversations. We knew we had a good kind of run in to qualify, like having B's the first two games, no disrespect to them, but you'd rather have B's the first two games than Leeds, say,
like Cole did, and they lost both of them.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we were able to, and they were going to be tough games. Like, it's never easy to go to Slough and get a win, and they're never easy to play, especially with Balaz and Gabai. If you can't keep them quiet, it's really tough. And then you lob Antonov in the mix when then he plays. It's like, okay, you've got to keep them quiet. And luckily we did. And then we knew we matched up really well with Leeds all season long. We never got blown out by them, and we always had really good games with them, and the season before. So we knew there was a chance to maybe get some points there to then make the whole games not ones where we had to win both.
Yeah.
And again, exactly. we turn up in Hull and we've got Brad Barry missing in that game as well. And again, we just came together as a team and just battled. And obviously we spoke about Mars's performance then all the way through playoffs was unbelievable. And the goalkeeper position is the most important position on the team, without a doubt. In my mind, like, Gospel is the reason why Leeds have won what they've won over the years, because Brown, all those players are sick. They're amazing, and they'll score 100 points. But you've seen teams with 100-point scorers who maybe haven't quite had the goaltending, and they'll finish mid-table. You go one way, you're on a 2-on-1. Gospel makes a save he shouldn't be making. Puck goes back the other way to those guys, and they transition so quick and then score, and it just deflates you
so quick.
It happened in our game.
They did that to us.
Ross Cowley, I don't know if you were watching, went up the other end. Gospel saved it. I think about a minute later, Leeds score, put themselves 2 goals up, and suddenly the game switched from a moment of brilliance.
Exactly, and it's he's been the league for me, the league MVP the last 2 seasons. Like he's another level.
Yeah, and obviously let's go to Coventry then. You had all the over the line thing, but it goes without goal line technology. You're never really going to get those moments specifically, and I think it's quite unfair on the refs as well that they don't have the replays to help them, because they do in the NHL. But let's actually get on to the final. You said that you've had good battles against Leeds, and you start the game, and I think Swindon, when they started, we conceded 4 in 10 minutes, but you guys got through that pretty much that first period, bar that scrappy goal at the end, and you'd kept Leeds pretty quiet.
Yeah, we knew we had to do that. We knew they come out hard and they want to blow you out the water straight away. Yeah. So we knew that we had to play tight defensively, but we always know when we play them that we get chances.
Yeah,
because they transition so hard forward, they overcommit, and we can hit them back the other way. And you probably noticed, like, we clogged the neutral zone. The first forechecker, when we were set up, wasn't really going below the tops of their circles, inviting them into the neutral zone and then making them dump.
Yeah.
So you make them dump the puck, we get back hard, it becomes a 50-50 puck, or potentially a more favourable one for us, and it's just, and we can get hold of the puck, chipping out, hit them the other way, and because then they've overcommitted, and that was the game plan really. And obviously then you needed stellar goaltending, good PK, and stay out the penalty box, a little bit of luck. I mean, yeah, their first goal, I didn't believe it went in.
I don't think.
And I went over to Irons at the end of the first period, and I said, look, I know you're under a lot of scrutiny from yesterday, but I said, I really believe that didn't go in. And, I mean, I've seen the video, and you can, I still believe that didn't go in, but, that is what it is. And, if that didn't get given as a goal, who knows if that didn't, who knows that doesn't then spark our fire then to come back the other way and do what we did. So, it's just, you kind of have to take it as it comes. And like you say, unfortunately, it happened on the Saturday, and it, it's sad. It's not the way that you want to, win games where it's being judged if is it in or is it not in. But it's kind of the way it's gone, sadly.
It must have been a bit. I was thinking it must have been a bit frustrating, maybe a little bit, because it's not like you guys would have lost that game if it didn't go. You guys still could have won that game in overtime, if it had been called back, and that's why I think you shouldn't be discredited at all for the final, because you still ended up beating Leeds, which are the best team we've seen in years.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing as well. Like, and like I said, there's that empathetic side, because no, but obviously the guys that were on the ice, feel it went in the video and stuff like that. It's just so inconclusive. You can't tell, and there's loads of angles and stuff like that, and other videos that have come out, and nobody's ever going to know. But I completely agree. You need at that playoff weekend, there needs to be goal line technology, and I also think it's probably something that needs to be brought in for like cup semi-final and final as well, especially when at the end of the day, those games bring in extra revenue for teams as well. So it's really important that the game shouldn't then be decided on a potential mistake. How they make that happen, I don't know. League season, it's a 54, 56 game league season, so you can kind of wash out if that happens once in a blue moon, because you've got opportunity to potentially correct it. But those one-off games, I think it needs to be something that gets looked at seriously.
And then fast forward to the overtime penalty shots. What were your nerves like? And when it got to that penalty, well, actually, it got to the penalty shots, and then obviously that drama happened in the crowd, and that kind of it kind of shifted emotions a bit, and then you had to try and get back into that mode again. What was that like on the bench with the players and having to experience that?
Yeah, I mean, well, for myself, I knew I wouldn't be taking one, so
well, yeah. I'm sure on the bench you're still feeling that emotion.
It was not as it was still obviously really nerve-wracking and stuff like that, and but yeah, like kind of, I look at penalty shootouts; they're a lottery. At the end of the day, so it is what it is. You have to take your hat off to the guys that are stepping up to take one. There's always going to be a hero, and unfortunately, there's always going to be somebody that maybe doesn't score the goal that then wins it, and the goaltending the same way. So I just take my hat off to the guys that step up and do that. And it's, again, that's that kind of like exclusive big moment where you need those big players to step up. And it was quite a nice moment, because I was stood next to Scott Robson, who I obviously played with when we won the playoff final in the EPL.
Yep.
And again, we jumped on the ice at the same time together there, and we did there as well. So that was quite nice. But yeah, you just kind of just like, for me, I'm just kind of like, it is what it is. Like, we're either winning it here or we're not, and it's a lottery. So yeah, would I rather it go to continuous overtime so it gets settled that way? Probably yes. Would my legs have allowed me to keep on going? Probably not. So it's one of them.
And I wanted to say, because I do like your tweets about back in Peterborough, because people say they play boring, whatever. How does it make you feel knowing that you're winning on the underdog team? That you're doing it under the, what would you say? Like doing it under when you're not expected to do it. How does that feel? Does it make it better to win?
Yeah, like like I said, back in 14, 15 when we did it, we were not expected to do it then. These last 2 years, more so this year, like we were counted out really at Leeds in the final of the cup final, but we did it, and then this year again. But yeah, it does just make it that little bit more sweeter, because it is nice just to kind of have everybody against you and then just prove them wrong. It does give you that little bit more fire to be like, well, you're not believing in us, or you think we're not very good. Well, here it is basically. And for me, that like you say, this year has been very tough because of the amount of injuries and stuff like that. We never expected to win it. Our goal was just to make Coventry. And just get there, and then you just never know. But that was a massive achievement for ourselves, regardless, making Coventry after the year. And I think personally, as well as a team, still finishing in 5th place with the amount of injuries and players and bans we had. I don't know if many other teams would have still then been able to go through kind of what we'd gone through with all of that and still finish as a fifth place team.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
it's easy for people to kind of get negative and fans feel disheartened because they've been so used to us doing so well, but that's kind of the expectations that we've put on ourselves because we have done so well over the 10 years.
Yeah.
So that expectation to win and be successful is there, but then it's the realization sometimes that, we are a mid-budget team. We are, we were very light on bodies at different points this year. So to still finish effectively where a mid-budget team finished, I think was still a massive achievement to do that. And I mean, that fifth place was massive for us in that playoff run as well in terms of setting us up.
Oh yeah, because we nearly took it away from you. That was a weird game of hockey, that one.
Yeah, no, definitely. We were keeping an eye on that score in that one.
What's
Sorry,
it called?
my dog's coming in to say hello.
Oh, that's all right. We could go through so many players from last season, but we haven't got too much time. I want to talk about one player though, and that's Luke Ferrara. The first player to hit 100 points or over 100 points of Peterborough for I think 8 or 9 years. He come in, he was fit the whole season. How good was it to have him back? Obviously, you won the playoffs with him last time in Peterborough. How nice was it for him to get the winner as well in Coventry? It was just perfect.
Honestly, again, for that winner on the penalty shot, if you wanted it to be on somebody's stick, it was probably him.
It was going in, didn't you? You just
oh, and he only just missed the first one as well. I think he ran the post, didn't he?
Yeah, he hit the post.
So it was like, don't know how many more chances you want to give him here because he's going to get one, and yeah, he's just the consummate professional. Looks after himself, works on extra stuff. Solid team guy. He got 100 points, but I think if you probably look at his points now, he gets them and stuff like that. He does it the right way.
Yeah,
he plays the game the right way. And
so smart.
I mean, to get 100 points on the fact that probably the whole year he never really had established line mates either. Yeah. So imagine if he'd had established chemistry with line mates for a full year.
Yes, sladded sisters the whole year. He's probably finishing top point scorer. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, you're looking at some crazy numbers there because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he might have started a little bit slow, but then he really came to the fold and completely deserves all the credit and everything that he's getting because he puts in that work and like I say, he plays the right way. A good team guy, good leader in the dressing room. I mean, he's a Ferrara, so he had Jimmy to look up to before that, and obviously Robbie as well. And and it's obviously massive for us to have a player like that playing in Peterborough for us because effectively he's scoring at an import rate as a Brit. So
yeah. You've got a question, Jack, don't you?
Yeah, look at it. We've not got too much time, but looking towards next season, I do want to get your opinion on it. Obviously, you've had Marzi the past few seasons, and he's gone back up to Scotland. What is your thoughts on having the import goalkeeper? Because me and Charlie have said, I know loads of fans want to see these youth goalies come in, but it is, as you said, goalie is the most important position, and it is about winning. And I think getting this goalkeeper in for you lot makes sense. So what is your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Marzi's been an amazing servant to Peterborough. I mean, 5 trophies in his time there. It says it all. And, he's backstopped us to some massive, massive wins. And, it's sad to see him go. You never want to see somebody go. But, sadly, obviously, decisions by obviously the coach are made in a different direction is where it goes. I think you go back to when we first brought Yanis in Swindon and the difference that made for us again as a middle budget team.
Yeah.
And again, like I've spoken about, it's such an important position. And I feel like you touched on it really well, Charlie, when you spoke about kind of, I suppose, for your middle to lower end budget teams to potentially be able to compete with those top teams and close that gap. That's where sometimes those fine margins come in, and 100% there's lots of British talented goalies out there, but it does kind of bring me back to when I spoke about the mental side of the game and stuff like that. And you look at like the junior system and British goalies coming through, like to then play like the games, the amount of games that they played. But the issue is at the junior level, the level is so up and down because of the standard. For them then to come and then be relied on for 56 games a year, it is a tough task. But then you flip it the other side, and it's like, well, how will they ever learn how to do that unless they don't get that opportunity? And I 100% agree. I think there's two sides to it.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's only one starter position and a backup on a team. Again, you can look at it where imports come into the team and maybe as a defenseman, you're potentially on the power play, but you sign an import D-man and you lose your spot on the power play there, or that takes away the development of a British D-man on the power play because you've got that import there. Yes, okay, there's a few more spots going around, but it does happen like that. But
and Peterborough need to win. Like, I think you mentioned my point on the other podcast. You've got a squad which can win, right?
100%.
And I say this in a nice way. If you put an average goalie in that squad, it's going to struggle to win. But if you put a top level goalie in that squad, it's going to compete for trophies. And that's the difference with a goalie, isn't it?
And that's why it is the most important position on the ice, and it's the position that can be scrutinised the most as well. And like you say, it can win you and lose your games, win you and lose your championships as well. And look, at the end of the day, we all compete in this league to win trophies, and the last trophy that I say like the core of us have got left, like myself, Slava, Robbo, Lukey Feds, and obviously Slava as the coach, is that league title that's missing. And people might laugh about it or something like that, but when we turn up to training camp at the start of the year, we're going for the league title. Like, that's what we're playing for, that's what we're trying to set up for. And if you aim for that, you're then going to qualify for the cup. Then you could potentially win a trophy there. You win that cup, it gives you a potential benchmark of confidence then to take into the playoffs as well. So it all kind of encompasses and goes around. So like I say, it's as sad as it is and stuff like that. And I think there is still good enough British goalies to play and stuff like that and potentially develop. But it'd be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, like I say, I'll probably, God knows how many more years I've got left in the league, but we'll see how that goes. But like I said, I'd still like to see British goalies obviously still getting their opportunity to play and stuff like that. 100%.
Yeah, well, you're going to be playing in front of him, so I bet you're excited to see how that goes. We're excited to see how it goes. Charlie, you always end with this question. Go on.
Yes, Tom Norton, it's been a pleasure, I must say. You spoke very well, and you're one of the D-men which every team would want on their top pair. What is your message to the Peterborough Phantoms fans?
I suppose thanks for sticking with us this year. I know it wasn't easy, but obviously by the end of the year, we gave you something to cheer about. And again, like I said at the start of the start of the podcast, obviously the support and everything through the testimonial was unreal, and it just solidifies why I sign back there every year, because it is a real hockey family there, and from the team and to the fans and everything, the closeness, it's just a real good place to play hockey. And obviously we'll go for everything again next year and see where we end up.
Nice one, Tom. Thank you for hopping on. We'll see you next season for your 11th full season with the Phantoms.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys, and keep up the good work.
Cheers.
So welcome back. Thank you so much, Tom Norton, for the interview. We really hope that everyone enjoyed that one. I think he's one of the best speakers we've had on the podcast. Our schedule's been a bit weird, a bit different, because we are a bit busy. Some days we're free, some days we're not. We're hoping there'll be lots of news, but we don't really have a proper schedule out. But whenever we're ready and we think it's right to release one and we've got an interview planned, we'll just put an episode. Charlie, do you have anything else to add on to that?
Yeah, I'm very busy at the moment. I'm not upset in a good way. Very blessed. I've got some big opportunities and plans coming up in about a month and a half. So yeah, over the summer it's going to be difficult to get out pods. It may just be Jack and Dan. If I'm not on it, please understand.
Dad as well. Dad might come in.
And Dad, of course, the main man. But I'm extremely busy over summer at the moment, so I'll try my best. But keep the hockey rolling. National League's the best hockey league in the world. That's all you have to say. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Malas is the GOAT, of course.
This might be our longest episode we've done. Dan, we will, as Charlie said, we'll continue to put out episodes. I'm sure you're going to be available a lot next season. I might not be able to go to a lot as much games. I'm not really sure what the plans are, but we'll keep you updated. And if we're doing team specific specials, which we're going to wait for teams to release more transfers and players. Because I know we did one for each team last year, Charlie, but that was like end of July, start of August before the season. So we're going to wait until the teams pretty much finish their rosters and we can start those ones. But I'm sure, Dan, you're going to be available to do any podcasts we need.
Yeah, exactly. If I need to be the Swindon super fan, then I guess I'll have to be, won't I? You know,
You might be next season.
On the
Who are you
weekends, I'm
supporting,
still
though?
in the rink, mate. I'm still looking for hockey games, you know?
Who are
I'm
you
just missing
supporting, though?
hockey.
The Berkshire Bees. I think I butchered that.
Berkshire.
Yeah, same thing. Or the Swindon Wildcats. Who's Dan going to support?
I'm going to support the Basingstoke Never Dies. That's what I'm going
Hey.
to support.
And I thought I'd quickly shout out Andrew Day. He has just
What a
finally
man.
finished his hockey watching. He's been watching all the women's games, all the tournaments as
He's
well.
watching the game today, mate. He's watching the WNIHL 1 finals. He's watched 3 women's games today, the promotion relegation games.
I think he's going to
Stopped.
Sheffield tomorrow as well. I saw he's going to
I
Sheffield
think
tomorrow.
it's right to say he is the biggest hockey fan, English hockey fan, I think I have ever met. Like he honestly, the love and passion he has for hockey is absolutely ridiculous. So do go follow Andrew Day on Twitter. He gives all the updates, all the hockey updates. He is the go of hockey, I think, for English hockey. So yeah, we'll leave it on that. Thank you very much for watching. Again, thank you very much, Tom Norton, for hopping on, and we'll have plenty more guests for the future. See ya.
See you later.
Actually, peace. That's how I end it. Peace.